The following is a Simpronto media production. Welcome to the Fasting Reset Summit for cutting-edge and practical health information on fasting from some of the world's leading health experts, where we promise to support you on your fasting journey with every presentation. And now, here's your host, Chantel Ray.
Hey guys, I'm so excited for our next guest, Dr. Mindy Pelz, and we are so excited. She's going to be talking to us about intermittent fasting, extended fasting, and the gut microbiome. So welcome, Dr. Mindy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So tell listeners who aren't familiar with you a little bit about yourself.
Well, okay, gosh, in one or two sentences, I became really passionate about fasting in just my own health journey. And I'm 50 now. When I hit my mid-40s, I experienced a lot of changes in my health that were not being cured with my lifestyle. And so I came to understand fasting, the science behind fasting, the power of the microbiome on your hormones, detoxing, and I really got to understand just how brilliantly we are designed, and that when you use the tools of fasting, you can tap into that brilliance. So from there, I launched, we have a whole group that we fast together once a month. I've done videos on YouTube where I talk about, the science of fasting is really intriguing to me because there's so much good information coming out now about what happens to our body as we fast. So you name it, all things fasting, I'm pretty excited about.
Awesome. So talk about, I know that you kind of have a reset group with your Facebook group where you say, hey, different times of the month, you're going to challenge people to do fasting. Talk about that.
Yeah. So I think the biggest misunderstanding with fasting is that you just stop eating food. And that would be the simple way to look at it. But there are, at every hour of fasting, something different is happening to your body. Like at 15 hours, which is intermittent fasting, most people don't realize, growth hormone kicks in, and I can like start burning fat more, and I can slow down aging if I do growth hormone, if I stimulate growth hormone. 17 hours, autophagy is kicking in. 24 hours, we know stem cells, intestinal stem cells are kicking in. So my resetter group, what we started doing is really experimenting with all different types of fasts, and we do it once a month. And I always give them two options. I give them an option of, you can do a 3 to 5 day water fast, or you can do a fast that I either create or one of the 7 fasts that I teach on my YouTube channel. So, and it's been fun because people are inquisitive and they have community support, and it's much more fun to do fasting in a group than by yourself.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So talk about the 7 different types of fast that you say that there are.
Yeah. So the first one is intermittent fasting, hands down. I mean, most people know that. And I don't know if you want me to go into all the details on it, but to me, intermittent fasting is 13 to 15 hours. And the benefits of it, like I said, are growth hormone. There's great studies on reducing breast cancer with a lifestyle of intermittent fasting. The second one to me is what I call autophagy fasting, which is where you go 17 hours without food. And then when you do eat, the key to staying in autophagy is you've got to keep your protein under 20 grams. So we teach, that's actually the fast we're doing this week. It's I call my fasting week fast training week. And so this week, that's what we're teaching. The next one is what a lot of people call one meal a day. I call it a 24-hour fast because where the confusion gets with one meal a day is, is it 22 hours? Is it 23 hours? And if you want to stimulate intestinal stem cells, you're going to have to go 24 hours. So if the last bit of food went into your mouth on 6 o'clock Monday night and you want to stimulate intestinal stem cells, you don't put anything in your mouth till the Tuesday night, 24 hours later at 6 o'clock. Then we've talked about dry fasting, which is no food, no water. That should only be done 12 to 24 hours. Fast mimicking, Walter Longo made that very popular. And that's really keeping calories down and keeping protein down. And then there's water fasting. So, 3 to 5 days, you would want to do that to stimulate intestinal stem cells. So, or I'm sorry, general stem cells, immune, muscular, those kind of things. So there's a lot of levels to fasting.
Awesome. So let's talk about, let's just go right down that list. So let's start with intermittent fasting. And I liked how you said 13 to 15 hours is like where you're basically saying you need, because some people say, well, I'm doing intermittent fasting and I'm doing a 12-hour window. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, they could say of eating, 12-hour window of eating. So what I'm hearing you say is that you're saying 13 to 15 hours with no food, you would count that intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
Once you get to 17, that's when you're saying autophagy happens.
Yeah. From the science, from what I see. So this is how I look at it. It's like a switch. So somewhere between 13 to 15 hours, growth hormone's going to get turned on. Now, the minute you eat, growth hormones, that shuts off that benefit. So that's the one, the longer you go, now you got growth hormone turned on at 13 to 15 hours. Now, if you go 17 hours, now you're stimulating autophagy. And so now autophagy gets switched on. So it's like these switches, the longer you go, the more you're turning on these self-healing switches. And to me, intermittent fasting is how we're designed to be. We were not designed to wake up and eat food all day long. So it's really, if you go back to the design of the human body, we were designed to wake up and realize we don't have any food. We need to go find food. And now we just go to our refrigerator and we start eating.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about clean fasting and dirty fasting. And when I say clean fasting is where there's no insulin spikes occurs. And we're talking about where people are having either water, sparkling water with no flavoring or anything, black coffee or black tea. And then some people would say, a dirty fast would be something where someone maybe puts like, ghee in their coffee or MCT oil in their coffee or a little cream in their coffee, heavy whipping cream or something like that. So what is your take on, let's say, someone having MCT oil or butter or something in their coffee?
So this is a great question, and we get it all the time. I'm sure you get it as well.
All the time.
All the time. So here's what I'm going to say. If you want the maximum benefit from fasting, just don't mess around. Just drink water. Just make it that way. For sure you're stimulating autophagy. You're stimulating growth hormone. But I'm a big believer in creating a fasting lifestyle. So if you're like, but I love my cup of coffee, I don't want to give up my cup of coffee, then the test that I use is take your blood sugar, drink your cup of coffee with some MCT oil, and then a half an hour later, take your blood sugar again and compare those. Did your blood sugar go up? Now, to your point that dirty fasting would be an insulin spike, if your blood sugar doesn't go up, then there's a good chance, it's not a certain chance, but there's a good chance that whatever you did to your cup of coffee, MCT oil, cream, butter, whatever, did not take you out of a fasted state. But just because blood sugar didn't go up doesn't mean that insulin isn't going up, and we have no way to really measure that. So yeah, I mean, I get people all the time ask me, does Diet Coke take you out of a fast? And it's, yes. the more people do extended water fasts and they want to drink Gatorade Zero, the more you influence the intelligence of the body, the more likely you're going to dampen down these incredible mechanisms and processes that can happen when you fast.
Yeah. And what's funny is, so like I tested it. I don't drink any caffeine now. I'm just super hyper. So like nobody needs to see me on caffeine. I have a lot of energy.
That's awesome.
But, so like I did it where I did a decaf coffee one time and added coconut oil into my coffee. I've done it, and I actually show it on video. So if you look at my YouTube channel, I watch it. So I take my blood sugar, and then I wait a little while and take my blood sugar again. And my blood sugar, every time I do that with like coconut oil or MCT oil, my blood sugar actually goes down by about 10.
Yep.
So that means that if I have 80, if let's say that before I started my blood sugar was 80, I drank a cup of decaf coffee with coconut oil, it will be at 70 the next time I test it. It'll literally drop. And I've tested it over and over and again. And I've done it on other people. Like, I'm like, okay, come here, let me test you out. And it goes down. But I agree with you. My opinion is this, is that if you want the maximum benefits, weight loss, autophagy, everything, like overall, water fasting is the way to go. Yeah. But if it's between you not doing it, and doing it, then, have some coconut oil or have that, MCT oil in the coffee. Because I've seen great results with people who are doing, a little bit of cream or a little bit of MCT oil. They're still having great results with it. They just aren't having as great.
Yeah.
And so
I think that's really well said. Really, if it's a barrier to doing this on a regular basis. One of my favorite self-studies that I did was, I have a friend whose daughter has type 1 diabetes, and she was upgrading her continuous blood sugar monitor. And so she said to me, hey, do you want to wear her old one? And I was like, yeah. So I put on the continuous monitor and I wore it for a month, and I tried all different types of fasting. And I did a 5-day water. I mean, I tested everything on it. And there were 2 huge takeaways for me. One is when I ate fat of any kind, my blood sugar dropped. So agree with what you said there. The second one, and one that I think most people don't realize, is that your blood sugar will spike enormously when you're stressed. So the example that I use is that I mean, and the cool thing is you see this continuously, minute by minute, what your blood sugar is doing. And my teenage daughter came in to the kitchen. We had an argument. And all of a sudden I looked down at my monitor and I'm like, oh, my 20 points, my blood sugar went up. I was in a fasted state, but the stress of that argument caused my blood sugar to go up.
Wow, that is awesome. That's awesome that you did that. I did the same thing as well. So I just got a doctor to prescribe one to me, awesome, even though I don't have a diabetes. So if you don't know what a continuous glucose monitoring system is, it's also labeled as a CGM. But it basically, you put it in you, and it literally tracks your blood sugar every so often. And so you can see it instead of you having to prick your finger all the time. Yep. It tracks your glucose levels throughout the day. But you do have to, in the mid, did you have to do that too? At one point in the day, kind of verify that it was right? Check it with your blood and then put it into the monitor.
Yeah, calibrate it. Yeah.
Calibrate it. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I feel like cool. If we could put one of those on everybody, we could change the way people eat so fast.
Oh my gosh, I know that they are so cool. I was thinking I should just buy one and just have it for fun,
Yeah. So the other interesting thing I noticed in that experiment is on the second day of a water fast, all of a sudden my blood sugar shot up out of nowhere, like it was trending down. And that's gluconeogenesis, 2 days into a water fast, and the body all of a sudden starts to create sugar and dump stored sugar. So that was really interesting to see it spike for a couple of hours, and then it went down to a whole nother level. So you just have such an interesting, appreciation for what your body does when you take food out of the equation. We were built to heal, and nobody teaches us that. You take food out of the equation and sit back and watch the miracles that your body will perform.
Yeah. I do want to mention this, that, when it comes to a clean fast, if you are thinking about why you're fasting, so some people are fasting for health reasons and fixing your gut and all kinds of powerful things, spiritual reasons. But if you are truly wanting to use fasting for weight loss, for me personally, for a while, I was doing a little bit of MCT oil or coconut oil in the morning. And for me, I could tell that it was impairing my weight loss. And if you think about some of the, you could be putting, 300 to 500 calories, depending on how much you use with ghee and MCT oil and coconut oil. And so still, for me personally, and I know that it's impacted a lot of people, if you think about it, if you're giving yourself fat, right, then it's going to use the fat that you're going to give it first before it's going to go to the fat that's on your hips, because you're still ingesting food. It's going to, the example that I use is if you've got money in your pocket versus money in the bank. If you've got money in your pocket, it's going to use that first and then go to your hips and everywhere else. That's
I think it's such an important point, because people all the time, and I'm sure you see this too, they're like, I'm stuck, or I'm not getting the same results that other people are getting. And then you have to get down into that detail, because for your body to unstick itself, you might have to go as clean as possible. Once you've gone clean and you're getting results, then you might be able to do some of the other ways that people vary this.
And I think that's such a great point, because some people we've seen, they can add a little bit of MCT and they can do the cream and they can do this, and they're having fantastic results. Then we have this group of people, until they went completely clean with water only, they were not getting the results that they wanted to see. So that's a great point. Yeah. So let's talk about, you mentioned at 17 hours, that's where you're seeing autophagy happen. First of all, for people who don't know, repeat what autophagy is, and why are you suggesting the protein to be under 20 grams?
Yeah, so again, based off science, that autophagy is when your body will go look for food within the cell. So it is a self-detoxing mechanism where in the absence of food, the body goes, okay, no more food's coming in. Let me go find it inside the cell. So it's one of the most amazing self-detox mechanisms that we have been born with. Now, if you keep your protein under 20 grams, you can stay in autophagy. So like you go 17 hours, you're stimulating autophagy, and you keep your protein under 20 grams, you're still stimulating autophagy. So the minute you go above 20 grams, what happens is that you now stimulate something called mTOR. And mTOR is where your cells now are in a buildup phase. They're not in a detox phase. So with autophagy, when we keep our protein under 20, we still can continue that. Even though you're eating, you're still continuing the autophagy effects, the self-detox effects.
And I've heard some people say, it's funny, I've seen different numbers. I've seen some people say 15 grams of protein. I've seen some people say 20 grams of protein. Have you seen different numbers like that?
Yeah, I've mostly seen 20. That's what I typically see. The variance that I've seen in is when is maximum autophagy kick in? So the science that I've seen on that is somewhere between 17 to 72 hours of, you're going to get your maximum benefits from autophagy. So, but I've pretty much seen under 20 grams. I haven't seen 15, but this is where, gosh, I wish we had an autophagy measuring device, because if we did, we'd know for sure. But I think let's get in the ballpark. Let's just get in the ballpark every once in a while. Keep your protein under 20 grams. If you want to keep it under 15 to make sure you're maximizing autophagy, awesome. But it's the understanding that we live in the most toxic time in human history, and your body has been designed with a self-detox system. So make sure that you're throwing in some 17-hour fasts, that you're having days where you're keeping the protein under 20 grams, so that you're stimulating this detox system.
So let me repeat back what I heard you say, and then you say if I'm right. So like you're saying that, basically, let's say you need about 20 grams of protein to keep your basic functions like the heartbeat going and different things to going. And if you're getting less than 20 grams of protein, then what happens is, let's just say that you just went and ate a bunch of lettuce and celery, and let's say you only got 10 grams of protein in a day, but let's say your body needed 20 grams to keep your heart beating. Then your body is going into autophagy to get that extra grams it needs to keep the heart beating. And so that's great for the body, because it gets the building blocks for its proteins by scavenging like debris and bacteria and viruses out of the cells.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said.
Feeling overwhelmed with creating and editing podcasts, videos, or virtual summits? Here at Simpronto, we make media and marketing simple. We can assist you with your video production needs and create 30-second up to 2-minute promo videos that will wow and engage potential customers. Do you have a podcast that you want to edit, launch, distribute? We can handle all of that for you and edit your episodes simply pronto. And if you're looking to create a virtual summit, we can help set up your website, edit the interviews, and so much more. Media, marketing, simply pronto. This is Simpronto. Go to simpronto.com to get started.
Are you enjoying the summit and hearing all the great advice that you don't want to forget? Get the All Access Pass and get all the video presentations and the audio downloads of every single session. You can get the All Access Pass and listen to the summit all year long if you want. The best part is you get all of the transcripts, so you can go back and read and see every little note that they talked about. Go to fastingresetsummit.com to get your All Access Pass today. So talk a little bit. So we've gone over the 13, 15 hours is where you consider intermittent. 17 hours is where you're seeing autophagy happen.
Yeah.
And then the 24-hour fast, where I love how you clarified that, by the way, because there are so many people who are saying the one meal a day, but their one meal a day, they're eating within a 4-hour window.
Right.
Talk about the benefits of that 24-hour fast.
Yeah. So again, let's go back to the science. MIT research. At 24 hours, the stem cells inside your mucosal lining of your gut start to wake up, get regenerated, and will repair your inner lining of your gut. So, but the research is at 24 hours. This was a study that actually came out this year, and it was a human study. So that's really cool, because sometimes we're making assumptions off of animal studies, but this was a human study. So what I find is that people are like, oh, I'm doing 24-hour fasts all the time. But when you get down into the nitty gritty, they're really doing 22. So I really want to point out, this is 24-hour fast. It is one meal a day, but you have to understand that when you stop putting food in your mouth, you got to wait a whole nother 24 hours. With stimulation of intestinal stem cells, if you know you have a leaky gut, if you know you have candida, if you know you have SIBO, parasites, if your gut is out of balance, this is an incredible way to bring your gut back into balance. So all of my patients that have any kind of gut dysbiosis, I have them doing 1 to 3 times a week, a 24-hour fast, so that we can stimulate the body's own repair system. So, and it's an incredible way to look at any kind of digestive issue you might have.
Awesome. So let's talk about that for just a second, as far as the gut, obviously. What are some symptoms and signs that you know, hey, my gut is just completely out of whack, or there's microbial imbalance or maladaptation, or just you're not getting the nutrients that you need, and maybe some constipation, or what is it that you're seeing that you're going, these are some signs and symptoms, you've got major gut issues, you need to do that 24-hour fast?
Well, probably the biggest one that I see are the SIBO patients, and those are the ones that get bloated after they eat. So SIBO is good or bad bacteria in the wrong part of your gut. It's in the small intestine, not necessarily in your large intestine. And so you eat anything fibrous and you're going to start to get bloated afterwards. So I've had great success with patients who have SIBO with the 24-hour fast. Candida. So like candida is when your craving, your sugar and carb cravings are through the roof. There's a reason for that. There's a fungus that's living in your gut that wants you to feed it. So it asks, gets you to feed it the carbs, and you just perceive it as cravings. Well, I don't know if you've ever done this. The longer you fast, one of the greatest tools I tell people to do is look at your tongue. Because if you go 24 hours or you're going into a 3 or 5 day water fast, is your tongue turning white? Is it yellow? Is it black? Those are signs that candida is dying off. So, I think the parasites, I get asked a lot about parasites, and I think, it's a tool, but you definitely with parasites need more killers, more supplementation. But constipation, bloating, burning in the stomach, those are the kind of signs that you've got some dysbiosis. And then we go into deeper levels of even things like anxiety, depression, anything that you needed to have good bacteria to produce neurotransmitters for you. Those kind of things can also be gut related.
So what about diarrhea?
For sure, diarrhea. So here's interesting. I'm sure you see this, where the longer somebody fasts, they either get constipated or they will get diarrhea. Like it's a die-off of these bad bacteria. So for sure, diarrhea, constipation, those are also signs. Awesome.
Well, talk a little bit about dry fasting. I know that you had mentioned that. What are the benefits of it? And I know that you said, hey, I'd like to contain dry fasting to a certain level. Talk about that.
Yeah. So there was an urban myth, is what I call it, in the fasting world, that dry fasting, 1 day of dry fasting gives you the same benefit as 3 days of a water fast. So people were like, well, that's incredible. Like, let me just go 1 day without food and water, and then I should be okay. I'll get the benefits of 3 days. And I haven't found the science behind that. So if you've heard of dry fasting to accelerate autophagy, accelerate stem cells, I have scoured the internet. There is no science behind that. Mm-hmm. Now, what we do see is two major things. People find they can get into a deeper ketosis. So without food or water, they can actually get into a deeper ketosis. Okay, so that's cool. And then we also know from the studies done on the Muslim community who do dry fasting during Ramadan, they've measured different chemical reactions that's happened in that community while they're dry fasting. And one of the biggest things is BDNF. BDNF will go up with as little as a 12-hour dry fast. And BDNF is like fertilizer for the brain, and it can stimulate serotonin production. So there's a lot of brain benefit to a dry fast. But we don't have any study on it going longer than 24 hours. And so there's these people out there that are going 3 days, 7 days. I mean, as far as what I was taught, if you go 3 days without water, your kidneys shut down. So it is really not smart to go longer than 24, and you're pretty good at 12. So if you don't want to go 24 dry fast, try 12. And you'll get that BDNF, you'll get the deeper ketosis, but be really smart about it.
Okay. And now give people an idea of what the fasting mimicking diet is with Dr. Walter Longo,
yep.
And what that is and how they can incorporate that.
Okay, so Walter Longo, he's the one that really brought to our attention that at a 3-day water fast will reboot the whole immune system, and you'll see old white blood cells get sloughed off and new ones will emerge. So out of his own study, he was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, but not everybody's going to be able to do a 3-day water fast. So he came up with something called the fast mimicking diet. And the general parameters of it are you have to keep your calorie count under 800 calories. You got to keep your protein under 20 grams. He didn't manipulate or change the carb load. And then you have to get at least 60% of your food come from good fat. And he did that on people who had type 1 and type 2 diabetics. He did it 5 days in a row. And he did a 5-day period once a month for 3 months. On the third month, what he saw is that these cells, or the pancreatic cells, were regenerating. So you would get stem cell production, and the pancreas was healing itself just from 5 days of this style of eating. So he has an incredible product called Prolon that you can actually follow the exact formula that he used. I always say to people, you can try to keep it under 800 calories and just keep your protein down. That's really good. But if you want the absolute result that he got, you would do Prolon, his pre-packaged food.
So let's talk about the difference between, say, someone doing a 2-day fast and a 3-day fast. And it's interesting because on my podcast, I think I mentioned I do a lot of 2-day fast, like 48 hours. I do it very, very regularly. And I think the reason is because I've done 3-day fast, I've done 5-day fast, I've done 7-day, but 3 days, I almost feel like I'm like, oh my gosh. And I probably, because I've trained myself, like me doing a 24-hour fast is a breeze.
Right.
Me doing 48 hours is pretty, easy for me now because I've done so many of them. And it's funny because once I said that, I guess I've said it a couple times on my podcast, and now I feel like people have been kind of commenting in, and they're like, I feel the same way. Like, I feel like I could do 2 days really well, but I can't, do 3. 3 days is really hard. And I'm wondering in my mind, I'm like, man, I wonder if me saying that, it's like a mental block because I've now told them, hey, 2 days is easy, 3 days is harder. What do you think is happening there? And do you think it's just mental for the fact that I've said that now that I've gotten more people to say that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I love your thought process on this because there is this huge mental game to fasting. Mm-hmm. And you can talk yourself into any fast and you can talk yourself out of any fast. So you always want to ask yourself before you go into the fast, what am I trying to accomplish? Why am I doing this? So I believe for weight loss, 36 to 48 hours is awesome. Like if you want to unstick your weight, if you want to keep your weight down, I agree. You need to throw in some of these longer fasts because in that time period, you're telling your body, hey, no food's coming in. Go find what I stored years ago. Then go burn that. So that's a dream to somebody trying to lose weight. But if you want stem cell production, if you want to reboot the immune system, if you want to heal a musculoskeletal injury, it's just like the 1 meal a day. You've got to get to 72 hours. And at 72 hours, those stem cells are turned on. So if you're trying to heal, like I healed an Achilles tendon injury by doing a 5-day water fast. And my purpose was, let me switch on my stem cells and then let me hang in there to see how long it takes before my ankle heals or my tendon heals. And it was crazy. Like 5 days, boom, a 6-month Achilles tendon injury that stopped me from running was healed in a 5-day water fast.
Wow.
So it's really what you're trying to do. I have a patient right now with leukemia, and we've got him doing 72 hours every week. And we're seeing that his white blood cell counts are now normalizing after being incredibly high. So but if you're trying to lose weight, 36, 48, that's going to be your thing.
Awesome. I love that. Well, it has been an absolute blast. just talking with you. Tell listeners any final thoughts on fasting where you said, like, here's some tips or tricks or anything to make it easier. I mean, doing a 3-day water fast is not easy any way you look at it, but any kind of tips that you found that kind of helped take you or any of your clients to the next level?
Yeah, I think there's two major things. One is when you understand what's happening, you become more in awe of the process than you feel like you're struggling or suffering. So that's why I love bringing the science and like talking about when things get turned on, so that if you're at 17 hours and you want to eat anything inside and chop everybody's head off, you can remind yourself why you're doing it. Oh, I'm detoxing right now. So understand what is happening in the body, the science behind it, and knowledge is power. It will become effortless. And then I believe do it in a community, get in an area where you can jump in and you can bitch if you want to bitch. You can call out to the community and say, I need help. I mean, that's what we see in our resetters is people will rally in and be like, you can do it, you can do it. So those two things become really important.
Now, when you aren't fasting, is there any foods that you just kind of say, okay, when you are in your eating window, that you say, these foods I kind of eliminate out of my diet? Or when you are eating, you're like, look, when I'm eating what I want?
Yeah. And there's a whole style to that. But I would say living here in America, you won't find me eating gluten. Now, if you put me in Italy where they don't spray it and they have heirloom seeds, I'll eat all the pasta I want. But here in America, the way our wheat is grown, I don't eat it. It's toxic to the body. I don't eat a lot of sugar as well. Same thing, a lot of GMOs in it. So I have my parameters. But I think the best mindset that I teach my patients is, remember, you have a fasting window and you'll have an eating window, and they're equally as important. So the quality of the food, if you decide you're going to fast and eat Doritos and drink Coca-Cola, your results obviously won't be the same. You're not getting as many of the health benefits. So the more you clean up your eating window, eat fresh foods, stay away from the processed foods, eat organic. Those kind of things are massively important in this day and age.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Mindy, tell everyone where they can find you and follow you. I love your website. It's absolutely beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. We just rolled out a new one. You can find me on my YouTube channel. I'm putting new videos out every week. All of them have a fasting twist on it. If you want to fast with us, you can join my resetter group on Facebook. We're doing a live fasting event on January 11th here in San Jose, California. So we're just trying to create support for people so that they can really excel at this lifestyle.
I love it so much. Well, you've been a joy to talk to, and I know that the listeners got so much out of this. So if you want to follow her, you will really enjoy her website, drmindypelz.com. And thanks again for being with us. And everyone else, stay tuned for our next episode.